birthday. And we also want to send birthday greetings out to Mr. Chevy Phillips, as well as Mr. Erdell Morris. Happy birthday to you. And we hope that you guys are having wonderful birthday celebrations. Now, a bit of history for today. Well, back in the year 1588, King Philip II of Spain dispatched the Spanish Armada, and that was under the Duke of Medina Sidonia from Lisbon, Portugal, to invade England. In the year 1830, on this day, United States President Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act, a key law leading to the forced removal of the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole tribes out of Georgia and surrounding states, setting the stage for the Cherokee Trail of Tears. In the year 1936, on this day, Alan Turing submitted a publication called On Computable Numbers, in which he set out the theoretical basis for modern computers. And in the year 1972, on this day, the White House plumbers, quote-unquote, first broke in to the Democratic National Headquarters and installed listening devices at the Watergate complex in Washington, D.C. Of course, that later on led to the resignation of Mr. Nixon, president at the time. We now move on to our dish of the day. The daily dish is brought to you with the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Jugosile, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program for today, for this Tuesday. And of course, we heard from Wasco, the Water and Sewage Company, that things are still not back to normal, or where they would need to be to have some reprieve or comfort with respect to storage of water at the John Compton Dam on the Roseau River, in the upper catchment of the Roseau River. And of course, that is still to mean that we have to be very cautious with respect to how we move forward on the use of water. Now, in many places, there's still a significant challenge in terms of reaching elevated communities in particular, or places that are on the far ends of the lines. And unfortunately, these communities are still facing a tremendous difficulty in being able to receive water. And so, of course, communities that are elevated, like Mondudor, like Carolee, for instance, very, very difficult still in their current plight. So, in as much as there is water in the lines, sometimes the pressure is still not great enough to be able to get to some of these communities. And so the rationing is unfortunately still on. And so although we believe we may have gone into the rainy season with that weather system which came across the island over the weekend, we certainly are not out of the clear as yet when it comes to the use of water. And so the appeal is still on for individuals to ration, to take shorter showers, avoid the washing of cars in particular, some things that take up lots and lots of water, and just simply not that essential at this time. If your car has some mud on it or it's a little dirty, it really won't kill you. And so, yeah, we've got to be seeing how we can definitely reduce on the utilization of water at this time. That is our plight and our reality. And we should certainly be thinking of the individuals who don't have water at their homes right now. Some of them on days on end, and then some people want to be out there washing their vehicles every day and what have you. So we definitely have to be thinking about that and seeing how, of course, in the long run, we can improve our own water security situation in terms of ensuring that we have storage. There's lots of water falling on many roofs around St. Lucia, and if we were living in Bermuda, all of that would have to be captured, and the rainwater would certainly have to be used to do the non-essential stuff like washing and cleaning. And so most houses are not so well equipped in terms of rainwater harvesting, but it is certainly something that we're going to have to be thinking of. It may very well be worth the payback time to be looking at some of these systems. So as we are looking at trying to capture the sun of our roofs through solar photovoltaics, perhaps too, we need to be also capturing the water that's coming off our roofs in that regard. So in terms of the future policy, we do have to see how we can reduce on the need to be capturing water right in the interior of the island and having to take that and in many instances pump it miles to be able to and of course treat it and pump it in a very long distance to people's homes, only to end up being used for non-essential use. And so definitely that aspect should be part of the approach when we're looking at our water situation. Overall, St. Lucia still gets a fair bit of water, far more than a lot of other places around the world. When you consider that, most places in St. Lucia receive over 60 inches of rainfall a year on average. That is a significant amount of water. But unfortunately, we're not really doing our best in terms of capturing it, and something that we've perhaps taken very much for granted. Now, the government recently announced it was part of the budget and one of the measures that was put forward in this year's budget in terms of education, and that was providing assistance to early childhood development centers. Some of us know them as preschools or kindergarten, and that sector has largely been provided through private enterprise. Individuals have set up their nursery schools, their preschools, provided support for parents who are looking to, of course, educate their children and provide them with a good learning environment in that pre-K space between the ages of 0 and 5. But in particular, in terms of preschool ECDCs, largely between the years 3 and 5. And the government, in fact, was impressing the point that they are providing some assistance this year, grants of $2,500 per early childhood development center, just as a form of assistance, given that these are in fact private institutions. Now, interestingly enough, there is a current and ongoing review of the Education Act of St. Lucia. The current legislation was crafted and, in fact, passed somewhere back in the year 2005. And that was after a significant amount of consultation, looking at the structure of the education system and making provision for a number of systems to be able to support education. Now, one of the things that we've heard about quite a lot is the matter of early childhood development, because the compulsory school age, in fact, I believe starts at 5. And so really between the ages of 5 and 15, you've got to be in school. But when you look at the periods at the edges of that, in the early childhood development age cohort, as well as the post-secondary age cohort, the 16 to 18, 19, that age range, those are actually not compulsory. And the proposal at hand in terms of the changes in terms of that this Education Act is in fact to make education compulsory from the age of 3. And of course, that would certainly mean that the ages for preschool or pre-K would now become mandatory. Now, of course, that has implications, no doubt, in terms of government ensuring that all students are, in fact, all children of that age, the 3 to 5s, are, in fact, in a school environment of some form. So, of course, there's some clear implications, of course, as to how that is going to be done. The desire to achieve universal early childhood education has been stated. We've seen it in manifestos in years gone by, and it is certainly a very important factor. We've heard from many different individuals who have looked and studied the impact of that 0 to 5 age group and the impact that it has on lifelong outcomes cannot be understated. In fact, it is quite vital. And individuals, for instance, like St. Lucian-born Dr. David Williams has in fact made the point, and he underscored that in a lecture he gave some years ago, that's one of the best areas for any government, for any Ministry of Education to be actually investing in, ensuring that that children get that first start. That the first start is a really important period, that 0 to 5, and we certainly cannot underestimate that in terms of the growing period and how children learn, their psychological development, their social development, their physical development. All of that is really important at that point. And ensuring that they are well cared for during that 0 to 5 age range is really important. Now, it's even more important in this current world that we live in, because in addition to the obvious impact it has lifelong in terms of the individuals growing up, how they can then transition into primary school and in secondary school, that's really important. But of course, their psychosocial outlook, ensuring that they're not experiencing trauma at a very early age, that's really important as well. But in addition to that, the world is, in fact, right now facing a significant global fertility rate crisis. And we are simply just not seeing in very many countries, particularly high-income countries, we are not seeing these countries meeting their replacement rate. Effectively, what that means is that the replacement rate has been 2.1. A family needs to be producing 2.1 human beings to be able to effectively replace themselves. That's the general rule of thumb there. And the global fertility rate as of now stands somewhere around 2.3. So it is above replacement rate. But at the same time, that is, of course, the global average. But when you look at countries around the world, most of the countries in North America, in Europe, as well as in most of Latin America and Oceania, they in fact are seeing very, very low. They actually are below that replacement rate of 2.1. And so, of course, even in the Caribbean, we are in that similar sort of situation. I mean, of the 204 countries that are on that list of the United Nations Population Fund, St. Lucia is ranked 186 in terms of fertility rates. So, in fact, we are very much bottom of the pile in terms of our fertility rate right now. We're at 1.4. Of course, the countries that have less than us, a lot of them will surprise you. You're speaking of even Jamaica, that has an even lower rate of 1.3. Italy, 1.3. Japan, 1.3. Spain, 1.3. Ukraine, 1.3. China, 1.2. And of course, we've heard about that in the case of China, that their population has in fact already peaked and is actually declining. Now, although we don't have the figures yet coming out of the last census that has been done, the housing population census for St. Lucia, those figures have not yet been published, but we will expect that there is going to in fact be an increase in the population. And so in many cases, in a lot of countries, the population is still increasing, although the replacement rate is lower than the rate of fertility is lower than the replacement rate. And that's exactly the case in St. Lucia. But what we're seeing is a tremendous slowing down of that increase. And it's going to level out, and it is, in fact, going to start falling. And, you know, there have been projections of that. Of course, there's lots of work that's been done by actuaries because, of course, it's a major issue when it comes to things like your pension funds. And there was a projection, I think, at one point in time that the population would peak somewhere around the 2030s. But don't be too surprised that figure, in fact, that year of the peak is actually going to be even earlier than that. Because we're seeing this tremendous slowdown in terms of that rate of increase. And you are going to get yourself at a point where people, they're going to be in a country, in fact, more deaths than there are births. Now, if you look at the CPEA figures, for instance, the number of students who wrote CPEA this year, we're speaking at about just a little over 2,000. Just a little over 2,000. I think about 2,060 students wrote the Caribbean Primary Entrance Assessment examinations, which are the 11 plus exams. So you're already getting a sense as to where we are at. And although the death rate is, the death count, I think is perhaps about 1,100. So we're not at that point yet where the number of deaths, in fact, are surpassing the number of births. But don't be comforted by that fact, because that actually happens much later on in this transition. By that point, you're definitely in a significant point of decline in terms of your population. And many countries have in fact found themselves in that bracket. Places like South Korea, for instance, they are right now looking at a fertility rate of about 0.7. And so the way this is being described is almost like a population collapse. And so when you now look at, well, what can be done with respect to making shifts away from this reality regarding population, one of the major issues is, in fact, access to universal access, that is, to early childhood development, early childhood education, and daycare. And that is pointed out as one of the potential tools within the ambit of government where they could try to assist somewhat in terms of raising that fertility rate. The theory there, of course, is that if it is more affordable, if it is easier for parents to be able to have childcare, free childcare, and up to the point, of course, where they then have to get into free education, that, of course, helps tremendously, because that's a major cost within the context of child rearing. So even though, however, the studies do suggest that even with that move, you may very well just be able to shift your fertility rate by a couple points, couple percentage points. So it is not a panacea. It certainly is just a measure to try to stymie the drop that most countries around the world are in fact seeing. So certainly it is a good move, I think, to be trying to expand the age, the compulsory age for education. Of course, it's going to take more than this good gesture in this year's budget, providing some assistance to the early childhood development centers. Certainly does mean that there has to be an all-of-country approach. The role of the private sector in providing childcare is also going to be very important within this context as well. And to become pretty much a more child-friendly country is certainly going to be very, very important. And so that has to be put on the agenda in terms of how then we can promote having children. And then, of course, we've seen the challenges in some places where you have many resorts, for instance, or adult-only spaces, and this is a major issue in places like Korea. A lot of places are for adults only, and the need to ensure that they are child-friendly places is certainly going to be a major part of that move towards addressing this shift in fertility. That's our dish of the day. When we come back, we'll be taking in your calls.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. There's all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also glass, glassware, and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down to my nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Rue, Brozile, and Slack Street in Viewfort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home. Really? Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with these tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle-dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath
Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for. That sounds perfect. I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation. I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And that's all, of course, on the 1.1. It's now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from the east near 70 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour. The weather fair and hazy, becoming cloudy at times with a few showers. There is an advisory in here which reads persons with respiratory ailments and dust allergies are advised to take the necessary precautions due to reduced air quality. Also, small craft operators should exercise caution due to reduced visibility. The forecast for the Lesser Antilles, fair and hazy, becoming cloudy at times with a few showers. And the weather summary: weak, unstable conditions in the atmosphere over the region will cause a few cloudy periods with showers over the islands during the next 24 hours. A tropical wave located over the central tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour and is expected to affect the southern Windward Islands on Thursday. Another tropical wave located over the far eastern tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 21 miles per hour or 33 kilometers per hour. Also, a plume of saharan dust haze will continue to cause a reduction in visibility and air quality across the Eastern Caribbean region over the next few days. And this was the weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home. Really? Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the style stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up. What are you looking for? Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle-dazzle. Okay, Ms. Razzle-Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Talent Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for. That sounds perfect. I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation. I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046, 452-3046, and as well our WhatsApp number 724-0008, again 724-0008. And we were just speaking about the matter and the importance of early childhood development. Of course, the proposed draft education bill looking to, in fact, spread the or reduce the starting date for mandatory education here in St. Lucia, moving it down to the age of 3, and certainly taking in the pre-K period. Of course, there has been some effort to repurpose the empty space or available space at many primary schools around the island. And that, of course, is because of that very same factor that we're seeing, the dropping enrollment numbers in very many of these institutions has afforded for quite a number of empty spaces. Very small classrooms, so the student-teacher ratios have come down over the years. And in very many of these schools, you're actually speaking of sometimes, maybe sometimes less than 10 students in a classroom, whereas maybe about easily 20, 30 years ago, you may very well have had up to about 40 students, in a primary classroom. So certainly there's been some significant demographic change that we have witnessed. The demographic changes which we have witnessed over the past couple of years. And it means then that how the education sector moves forward needs to be looked at with a degree of flexibility, perhaps. One of the areas that we've seen, the number of teachers has not really shifted, so we still have a fairly large base of, I think, over 2,000 teachers across primary and secondary schools. The number of schools has not really shifted that much either, although the number of primary schools has come down to some degree. But of course, we do have in some areas very isolated communities. And of course, we can think of institutions like Debara in the Babano area, as well as Buto. Buto actually being one of the oldest schools in St. Lucia, actually, when it was established, I think in the 19th century. It was actually, I think, called the Osmaho School at that point. And so many of these institutions, of course, are struggling in terms of the enrollment numbers. And so the shift now is to see how then there can, in fact, be an early childhood component within some of these schools, with, of course, a degree of separation so that those very young children can still be, protected and sheltered away from older students as well. So we do hope that that move continues to happen. And of course, on the other end of the spectrum, another area of great import is that of the post-secondary education. And I think we've spoken about this before. As of now, once you leave secondary school, you're not really mandated in any way to go forward. Now, some countries have in fact seen the benefit, in fact, of making it compulsory to add on another 2 years, and those 2 years are seen as an opportunity for skills development, for specialization. And so this post-secondary 2-year period, in fact, is a pretty useful one, because as it is now, we're finding a number of 16-year-olds not necessarily being able to move on to the South Louis Community College or the V4 Comprehensive's Form 6 program, and then they're pretty much on their own, looking to try to get into the workforce without very much skills available at that time, at that age, very little experience or no experience at all, and so that's a difficult period. Now, of course, even from the perspective of what seems to be a very stubbornly high unemployment rate, youth unemployment rate, you can in fact make an impact on your youth unemployment figures by merely ensuring that those individuals between the ages of 16 and 18 are not part of that labor force altogether, and in fact ensuring that they can be in some program within that age range. And so, of course, it does mean, however, that there are cost implications, but that investment from the perspective of skills development can be very useful. Of course, there's been a lot of emphasis on TVET and technical vocational education, and that certainly is an opportunity for specialization. And so whether that is being done through the South Louis Community College or potentially through other institutions like the National Skills Development Center, we should possibly be thinking about also broadening that period of mandatory education upwards as well, probably to the age of 18 or to the point of adulthood. In fact, in addition to that, what you also get in some countries is a mandatory national service. Now, you see it, of course, very often in countries that have a particular national security concern, and places like Israel, Taiwan, for instance. It's part of their system. It has been so for a number of years, but they also allow for alternative military service. And so the whole concept of giving back to your country, of building this desire for voluntarism, which seems to be pretty dead in many places around St. Lucia right now, that could possibly be a means to inculcate this discipline of giving back, and perhaps tying it as well to education opportunities, if that may be seen to be the wise option. So, of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, I'm not too sure that. Okay, is it? Yes. Is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. I believe earlier on today there was also the launch of a new connection out of Antigua, and that is actually through an airline called Sunrise, I believe, Sunrise Airways, and they in fact saw their inaugural flight connecting St. Lucia and Antigua, Antigua being used as a sort of a secondary hub for this airline. Sunrise Airways is in fact a Haitian airline. It's actually headquarters at the Toussaint Louverture International Airport in Port-au-Prince in Haiti, and it's been founded since 2010, and it is the creation of a gentleman by the name of Philippe Bayard, who was in fact a pilot and has also been engaged in lots of philanthropy with a particular passion for that of conservation. And he's also, I think, the president of the Haiti Audubon Society, looking at trying to promote nature conservation in the Haitian Republic. And so this is certainly a very good move in terms of connecting our islands. We've certainly seen the challenges with respect to airlift over the past couple of years now, since COVID-19 saw significant challenges for regional airlift. It is still that area where we still are under performing in terms of our visitor arrivals, and so moves like that by another airline, in this instance Sunrise, are certainly welcome, and we do hope that that can result in greater competition within our airspace, and greater service and opportunities as well. We still have to belabor the point regarding the issue of tariffs. And I do hope that we can see the day when our islands, particularly that of the Eastern Caribbean, can in fact decide that they are not going to set tariffs for regional travel. In fact, it should be, if we are in fact under the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority, ECA, we're sharing that single Civil Aviation Authority. We should be having a single airspace, and this idea of of taxation of airlift between our islands should really be by now a thing of the past. If we are in fact speaking about a single market and economy, if we could achieve it within our region, within our sub-region, I am certain that it would then result in benefits within our region and others now within the broader Caribbean region would now begin to see that the benefits, and they would also want to join in. And there have been a number of studies that have been done by the Caribbean Development Bank. There was one back, I think, in 2015. There was another one done in 2018. And my understanding is another consultancy has been issued by the CDB to look into, again, the matter of regional airlift and regional connectivity. And I'm pretty certain that the outcomes, the results are going to be pretty much the same, to point out that one of the major issues is that of the rates, the tariffs that are set for regional travel, the taxes that are set by our governments in that regard. And so if there could be an allowance for greater movement across our islands, that would benefit our tourism sector in terms of intra-regional tourism. But of course, people coming into the region can then say, well, okay, I'm landing in Antigua. I'm spending a week in Antigua, but I want to actually see Dominica and St. Lucia as well. And so maybe allow for people to stay longer in the Caribbean and entice them to actually travel more and spend more overall within the Caribbean space. So we really do need, as a sub-region in particular, because we've got all the experience when it comes to regional functional cooperation in terms of our currency, in terms of our courts, in terms of our telecommunications and pharmaceuticals. The other area, and of course we already have it in civil aviation, there really should not be a reason why we cannot do the same with respect to having that single airspace and in fact allowing for cheaper flights within this area. And in particular, I think St. Lucia would actually benefit in terms of then being able to potentially pull a little bit of the hub business. And Antigua would benefit, as it already is in fact benefiting, but it could benefit even more, being a hub for the Leeward Islands. So certainly there's interest in it, and I think there should be a desire to try to move this forward for the Eastern Caribbean at this time. Now, I want to shift a little bit over to the African continent, and we are in fact this year 2024 has been identified as the year of elections around the world. There are so many countries and the population of the world, so many people are in fact being given an opportunity to elect their leaders in this year, in the year 2024. Of course, India is the world's largest democracy, of well over, in fact, the largest country, most populous country in the world. And they, of course, are already ongoing in their plebiscite. The likely outcome is a return of their current leading party, the BJP, of course, and headed by Narendra Modi. But over in South Africa, that country, of course, which saw an end to apartheid and only received universal adult suffrage in 1994. After 30 years, they are in fact going to the polls tomorrow for another election to elect their parliament, the National Assembly, as well as the other provincial governments, provincial legislatures across the 9 provinces in South Africa. And certainly a very interesting time because for the past 30 years, they have effectively seen one party in control of their fate, and that has been the party of now deceased Nelson Mandela, of course, who the party that struggled against apartheid for a very, very long time, of course, that institution of oppression being formed for decades and decades ago. I think back in the 1930s or thereabouts, 1920s, 1930s. And they were able to achieve the end of apartheid. That is the African National Congress. But over the past 3 decades, however, their popularity has certainly waned. And in fact, in municipal level elections back in 2021, that was actually the first time that the ANC received less than 50% of the vote for a nationwide vote since the end of apartheid. And it'll be very, very interesting to see how things move forward in the upcoming general elections. Of course, there was an attempt by former ANC leader, former president, Mr. Jacob Zuma. He wanted to actually contest the elections. I believe that, in fact, back on May the 20th, about 8 days ago, Mr. Zuma was ruled ineligible to stand for the election by the Constitutional Court, and that was citing his criminal conviction. He had created his own party, and of course, there's the current ANC leader, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. He is leading the ANC into the fight for 400 seats in this election tomorrow. But there is quite a lot of other parties at play, including EFF, which is led by Mr. Julius Malema, a South African politician who, in fact, founded this party, Economic Freedom Fighters. Generally a very populist, far-left party, very military style and militaristic in their approach, and of course a number of other parties at play, including the Democratic Alliance, which has tended to be a party that has had the support of the coloreds and whites in South Africa. Let's go to the phone lines at this time. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Hi. How are you, caller?
Good, thank you, caller. How are you doing?
Not bad. Going back to the airport, especially I'm looking at George F. Charles. How, from your point of view, how you see it looking for that airport? Because to me, there is a sort of a view right now that there's a lot of little airlines are starting to come up, with Riyadh in its kind of position there. So they have this new airline, Sunrise, and to me, well, my little view, I don't know how correct I am. It looks kind of positive for Joseph L. Charles on the lines of its survival and keeping it going. How you see that?
I take your point, and sometimes it's interesting how things go through cycles, and you're right. It appears that there's a bit of there should be a bit of a revival in terms of the numbers of coming in. We haven't seen the numbers yet, however,
Yeah.
So I think it's a little too early to
Little too
be
early, yeah,
too
yeah,
hopeful
yeah.
that, in fact, there's going to be any kind of significant shift in that regard. However, I still fundamentally believe that it is in St. Lucia's benefit to have a single
Airport.
gateway. It would then allow us to be able to be doing much better connections, which we cannot achieve right about now. If somebody says that they want to land, come out of UK, come out of Gatwick or Hartfield, Atlanta, and they're coming to St. Lucia and they want to connect to go to Grenada or Barbados or anywhere, you know, it's a challenge. And
Yeah, but I was looking at the other side of things, that the small hotels, the little A and B. To me, they depend, or they kind of focusing more on that kind of a tourist that hops on those little airlines and, you know, doing this little island hopping stuff, where they come into a little A and B and they spend 1-2 nights, move out to another island, that sort of thing. To me, it would help that side of the industry to pick up even more, you know.
But I think we would see that even more if we could actually do some level of better interconnection between our regional and international flights.
With
And
Jet
I mean,
Nora.
because with Hiwanora, yes. And I mean, if you're looking at that from that perspective, there are Airbnbs all over the island. So, I mean, you look at places like Labrie and Choiseul, for instance, and they're seeing a lot of Soufrière, a lot of Airbnb growth, and they're far more closer to Hiwanora.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that we can say that, well, because the Airbnbs are around. I think the Airbnbs are around everywhere, and they would in fact benefit from people being able to come in and out. I think what needs to happen is a focus on developing an international gateway that can properly compete, that can service both regional and international flights, and then improve on your internal logistics, your internal communications, your road network, to ensure that we can move around more safely and quicker.
We're not successful in that, Calix.
Well,
Antigua and Barbados somehow is edging us out on that side of things, of the business. They get in more of the hub business than we. So that's why I was looking at using George Eiffel Charles in a different kind of a way.
But Barbados will always do that because they have one single airport. Everybody's coming into that single airport, and it's happening. And we have countries that are far bigger than us, and they're operating one airport, right? I mean, look at Trinidad, for instance. You got Piarco, and all of Trinidad is all Trinidadians from Icacos all the way up to Chaguaramas. They're all using the same airport. You know, so it works out for them pretty well, and the same can be said for Martinique has a single airport, Guadeloupe.
Yeah,
well, Guadeloupe has another small airport, but it's not really.
I mean, yeah, but even I mean, big countries like Toronto have little airports. There's this little airport with planes like Liat landing there 24/7. You know, I mean, so it means that they're doing something with that airport. On the lines of helping the industries in that,
but they're also there. Yeah, and you're talking about a large metroplex with millions of people. There are also a number of countries, a number of cities that have actually closed down airports as well for very similar reasons. I mean, look at Berlin, which had about 4 airports due to its history.
I don't know. I know. I quite see what you're saying. I'm just saying that. To me, that sort of a thing. To me, it's good to have, you know, all the experts come and you know, throw the ideas and let's see how we could, because they might have. I'm just sensing there's something that we could do with that airport that would give us the advantage, where we would build up industry, the tourism industry and all other industries around it.
But then when you look
including small manufacturers and stuff like that.
But then when you look at the airport itself, and the built-up area around the airport, the safety of the airport, what what you should really be bringing in terms of the code of the aircraft that can really really be landing at George F.L. Charles Airport. The scope really is pretty limited. And so we're seeing right now, for instance, Dominica is benefiting from, even though it has a short runway at the Melville Hall airport, they're being able to bring in flights out of Miami now, right? Using this particular Embraer. Is it Embraer? Plane that's coming in, and so they can manage better in terms of those types of connections. But that said, I'm not sure if those would even be approved for George Charles because of some of the issues in terms of we've really built all around it. It's a very tight space. I mean, I do take the point that the technology is changing, but I think overall we would be better off, in my opinion, if we actually concentrated on getting Hewanora right and improving the connection between north and south, right, along the East Coast Road, the East Coast Highway. There have been a lot of recommendations as to how that can be done, and it will take some investment, of course, but I think it's in the long run, to me, it's the way to go. So maybe, but whatever happens, though, it has to be done in such a way that it's not ad hoc. It should be planned out. So people will know that, okay, we have a 5-year window, and this is within that 5 years, we can make the necessary shifts in terms of planning, in terms of making the investment, in terms of the roads. And so it's something that is understood that this is the direction that the country is going. For the benefit of the country in the long run. Yep. Well, thanks for that, caller. Very interesting point. Take care. All the best. Now, we're actually over time today. So we'll be back again tomorrow for another program of the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. And we do hope that you can join us for that. I'm your host, Calix George Jr., saying goodbye.